This is World Awakenings, the fast track to enlightenment with your host, Carl Gruber. World Awakenings is a podcast dedicated to opening your mind, your heart, and your eyes to the fact that the world's population is now, more than ever, awakening to all things spiritual, metaphysical, and enlightening, and just how they play an all-important role in our daily life. So join Carl on this enlightening experience as he interviews metaphysical and spiritual experts to discuss, debate, and delve deeply into the hows and whys of this worldwide awakening.
The law of attraction states that everything is energy and that like attracts like. True spirituality states that the only true reality is that of oneness, unity, and unconditional love and forgiveness. Together, these two are attached at the hip and perform a beautiful symbiotic dance together. Hi, I'm Carl Gruber, author of the brand new book, True Spirituality and the Law of Attraction, a beautiful symbiotic relationship. This is a book that will show you how to build a rock-solid personal foundation based on unchanging, eternal, universal truth that shows you how to become a consistent co-creator with the universe to create the life you love to live and live to love. Get your copy today of my new book, True Spirituality and the Law of Attraction, a beautiful symbiotic relationship, and learn how to manifest the life you truly desire to be living. Now available as an ebook or paperback on Amazon. Hey everyone, welcome back to the long-running show World Awakenings, a fast track to enlightenment. I'm your host, Carl Gruber. Now this show is committed to exploring far, far beyond the world we see with our eyes and perceive with our mind. Thus it is that I believe is going to stretch your mind and beliefs like you never thought was possible. And with that, I am totally overjoyed to welcome back one of my all-time favorite guests, Leanne Rose, and her friends, the Galayla Collective, who join us later on. Leanne is known as a Superconsciousness Activator and a Source-Frequency Trance-Channel. In the 2 years since she first appeared here on World Awakenings, I've followed her as she has totally blossomed as a woman and human being, all the while helping those that she comes into contact with to reconnect with their divine higher self and source to blossom and grow just as beautifully as she has. Plus, her most amazing friends from beyond our 3D world, the Galayla Collective, have much love, truth, and wisdom to share through her today. Anyway, with that, welcome back, Leanne. It's such a joy to have you here again.
Oh, thank you for having me, Carl. What a lovely introduction.
It's true. I mean, you just blow me away. I've watched you. You have a big following on Instagram, which includes me. And really, since you were here 2 years ago, I mean, it's like you've raised your game on a whole level that is amazing.
Oh, thank you. Well, I've had a lot of cosmic help, so that's definitely, an advantage.
Well, what I would like to do, you have so much beautiful information and wisdom to share with us, but if you wouldn't mind, I'd like to, and I like to do this for my viewers and listeners, find out a little bit more about your journey in life to where you are now. I understand you had a challenging time growing up, a near-death experience when you were a toddler, and all the way to becoming a mental health nurse and then dealing with the loss of your mother. Would you care to fill us in on some of this?
Yeah, of course. So we may as well start at the beginning with the near-death experience. So this is one of the juiciest stories that I like to tell. So obviously, part of my difficult upbringing was that my mum had schizophrenia and depression, and so as a result, I ended up in foster care. Which kind of led me to, a personal healing journey very, very, very early on, which obviously at some point then catapulted into me, being able to channel ourself as source in a really embodied way. And I'd always known throughout my childhood about this near-death experience when I was younger. Apparently we were on the telly. Apparently there was a whole like hospital thing, like a show that we were on.
Wow.
So I'd always known about it. But when I started the trance channel, and obviously, ourself as Source, who come through me as the Galayla Collective, when they were really starting to educate me on, what I was here to do as an individual, they drew me all the way back to this near-death experience that happened when I was around 3 months old. So I had a seizure in the bath, and as a result of that, I drowned and I was clinically dead for a number of minutes. And what they show me about that is because I was still connected to my human body, but left, had this beautiful experience in the cosmos where I was inundated, if you like, with ourself as Source. And then I obviously was resuscitated by the paramedics, brought back into my body. I brought that energetic experience back with me. And so my infant brain then grew around that experience. And as a result of that, I see energy differently than most people, which actually became a really beautiful safeguard in growing up the way I did. So I suppose we can start there, Carl. It was a bit of a waffly start to but that's where I decided to start.
You actually remember that even though you were 3 months old? I mean, do you remember the experience itself?
So as we know, Carl, time is an illusion. and they take me back to that experience quite regularly. And so would you like to know what I see when I'm chilling in the cosmos as a baby?
Sure.
So what they show me is, well, first and foremost, what I sense is just this infinite, unconditional, maternal love. So that's the first sense. And then there is this beautiful singing that is just, it can't really be described. It feels choir-like and angelic in nature. And what I see and feel they feel like ribbons of energy, like ribbons of light. And they are kind of wrapping around me and almost bouncing me from one to the other. So it's almost like this beautiful, it feels like a comic crib that's very alive and it's very nurturing in nature. They take me back there quite often, especially if my human is having a minute and she's feeling, quite disconnected or there's some difficult stuff going on. That's a really lovely way that they like to plug me back in to the fact that, we're all divinely safe, we're all divinely supported. And this is, these are experiences that every single one of us are having. It's just that some of us then gain access to the awareness of it as we, journey through our evolution.
This seems to be a very common experience with NDEs, near-death experiences. They feel the unconditional love and connection to everything because there is only the everything. Wow. That is amazing. But how did you end up becoming a mental health nurse?
So I actually trained as a mental health nurse because I was I was very frustrated at how my mum was actually treated by the system. So I'd always had this knowingness, from a very young age that human beings don't really understand the psyche as well as we think we do, especially in, the 3D medicine world. And my mum was highly drugged up, and I would hear stories of her being, this really, full of life woman before she was medicated. And that was not what she was like so I used to feel like my mum was almost like a shell of herself. So she kind of felt like a zombie to me, which feels awful to say. But that was one of the key motivators for me to go and study mental health nursing, because I was convinced that we weren't really seeing the full picture. And I wanted to, my very young and naive self was like, I'm going to change the system from the inside out. I'm going to go and study as a mental health nurse, and I'm going to go and, see what it's all about and see if there's anything I can change about the system, because this clearly isn't working. And as a result of that, actually, I went through my own kind of mental health crisis. I struggle with depression and suicidality and, all of that kind of stuff, actually, as a mental health nurse. And took myself through, you know, the same things that I was taking my clients through. And that just wasn't working for me. And when I really started to just put my faith in spirituality first and foremost and start to utilize consciousness as a tool rather than just trying to study the human mind, that's when everything cracked open for me. And I found the answers that I'd been looking for in my initial journey to wanting to become a mental health nurse.
Well, that's very cool, looking at it from that perspective. And it is so very true. Since the 2 years you've been here, I mentioned that I've watched you blossom and you shine in a very glamorous manner, but not in the fake manner, but it's the real you shining through. I mean, what changes have you seen in yourself since you started channeling Source via your friends, the Galayla Collective?
Oh, well, this has been I'm getting chills as I'm talking about this, Carl. They're quite excited that you've asked this question. So, it really has been life changing, Carl, because and they're actually showing me the irony of me saying, I wanted to change the system from the inside out, and they were like, "Oh, look, you changed yourself from the inside out." That's really where the power is. So, it's changed everything, Carl. I used to be very, very insecure. I used to be really depressed. Like I was actively, passively suicidal for a number of years. It was really, really heavy, really dense, did not like myself. Hated my physical body, lots of the usual kinds of things that you would expect a foster child to be struggling with in terms of being able to intimately connect with people and trust people and all of that kind of jazz. And, just this process has really shown me that every single thing I moved through was just a powerful invitation for a journey. It was a journey to travel away from myself as unconditional love, which then paved this beautiful path back home to myself as unconditional love. And that's been the most powerful aspect of this has been to really recognize in its entirety what true empowerment and true freedom really is. And it really stems from inside of us. And when you can understand how to become that frequency, become that energy, by law, by metaphysical law, the world around you must change to respond to you in that frequency. So it's been the most empowering journey I've could ever describe, and I feel like I'm just getting started.
And you're still young. What are you, like 18 or 20 years old? Oh,
I'm 30, Cole. I turned 30 last year.
I can't remember that far back. That is so cool. That young and to be so open to the wisdom of the universe. Well, let's and I know we're going to try to bring in the Galayla Collective, and I would like to ask you, many of my guests talk about the coming transition of humanity from the 3D to the 5D. But what I see, you speak about the 6th-dimensional reality. Why is that?
Yeah, so I'm really glad you asked this question, Carl. So we actually no longer talk about 6th dimensionality. We talk about the God self now and superconsciousness. But the reason that we started talking about 6th dimensional consciousness was to help people recognize that our current understanding in spiritual circles around 5D actually sits in what we call the unbalanced feminine. And it still sits in the old paradigm, which is very indicative of this idea that source is separate from us, that we are somehow separate from source. This idea that the ego needs to be demonized and, we need to stay away from that at all costs. The idea that, there is this spiritual war going on. The reason that they really differentiated between the 5D and the 6D was because they wanted to remind us that there are even higher layers to play in. So that was one of the core reasons that they spoke about this, and what this means for for each and every one of us. It's not that if you're talking about 5D that you're not operating at the highest frequency or anything like that. There's no such thing. We're all one, we're all source, and we're all focused in the exact informational points that we need to be in order to be a fully flourished and fully expressed aspect of source energy. 5D is very much this understanding of the world that plays with the illusion of separation from source. So, for example, when somebody looks at me channeling, and there's this idea that the Galayla Collective are somehow separate from me, the reason that that is so fun is because we're playing in the illusion that source is separate from self. But in actual fact, they're not, in the same way that you and I are not separate from one another, Carl, because we're both source, we're all source. So that's really the deeper level of embodiment that's coming online at the collective level now. We're really starting to understand what it really means, what oneness actually means, what it feels like to experience that, even though we're focused in human form. And when that really starts to come online and you start to be able to play in the illusion of separation without, being fully removed from it, that's when we start to have this awakening to the fact that third dimensional reality is essentially a playground. It's a playground for ourself as source to explore itself, create, and just have incredible adventures. But it wouldn't be possible without the illusion that we were separate from self. So I hope that makes sense. It's quite waffly.
Well, it does. As a longtime student of A Course in Miracles, I mean, everything you say is in alignment with, because the main knowledge in that book is that there is no separation, that we fell asleep in a dream, that we are separate, and it's created this deep sense of unconscious guilt that drives us into the weirdness of living in a 3D bodily form. And for me, as a student of A Course in Miracles, anybody watching or listening, I like it. So.
And the juicy bit about this is that I like to think about this as source's storyline that it's weaved in for itself. So, without this idea that, that 3D is not quite the answer, we wouldn't have this game that we're playing. But if you will notice, a lot of the older teachings on this, so even the piece that you just spoke about, and I was a huge fan of Eckhart Tolle and his work around the pain body and all of those kinds of beautiful things. You'll notice that there's still this flavor of, even within the teachings, that there is no separation. There's still this flavor that somehow we are wrong for being in the separation. And so what the difference is in the way that we teach is that actually the separation is the most divine piece. It's the thing that we created as source itself. And when you can really find gratitude for the illusion and the fact that that's what makes this entire game possible, that's when everything cracks open. So when we stop trying to chase ourselves as source and stop and realize that the entire piece that we've created here, all the illusion, all the contrast, all the drama, that is ourself as source. And when you can really see that and you can embody that felt sense of it, that's when everything opens up. And it's so exciting.
And I like that. When you come to the understanding of what you just talked about, yes, you can, as you call this 3D world, a playground of creation. You can, it's an illusion, but you can still go about your day a little more serene, more peaceful, smiling a little bit more, not taking everything so seriously, but still living your beautiful life.
Yeah, and not just that, Carl. There is a completely renewed sense of adventure, because now you're not just tolerant of third dimensional reality. Now you're actively in love with it, and you're seeing it from the divinity level, and you're recognizing that it's not happening to you. You are the one creating it from within. And so what's opening up for every single one of us right now, as this maturity comes online at the collective level, and we're really starting to understand what this means, we're now no longer concentrating on the world from the outside in. We're concentrating on the world from the inside out. And what that does is cracks us into this infinite potential to actually design life in acute detail. So once you know that you are unconditional love, then you're going to be building from unconditional love. And so there's no longer any safeguards that are needed to be input into the system. so to speak. So, the reason that we can't have full control over our reality when we're still operating more from illusion is because we're less connected to that unconditional love frequency. So as a safeguard for everybody, we don't get full access to control of the reality that interacts with everybody. But the more you recognize yourself as unconditional love, the more infinite power you get to actually design reality in acute detail. And that's when you recognize, oh, I'm the one that's encoding every single experience I'm having. And so now I can actively start to shape that. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. I think it is for the general population of the 8 billion people on the planet. Most people live in a victimhood mentality. And when they hear that you're the creator of your own reality, it's very hard for them to wrap their head around it and go, huh? Wait, I created that auto accident a little while ago and blah, 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 and all that stuff. And no, it's their fault. And so, no, this is the reason you do what you do and I do to help people. And this is called World Awakenings, awaken to their true reality of their higher self.
Absolutely. And so we teach on one of the first frameworks that they ever downloaded for me was this. We're now calling it the Freedom Framework and the 4 Enlightenment Energies, but we used to call it the 4 Dominant Energies of the Universe. So there are 4 core frequencies that everything in existence is built upon. And they stem from truth and illusion, and then the way in which truth and illusion explore itself. And the victim frequency is one of those core frequencies. So it's actually encoded within every single one of us. And it actually becomes an ally when you understand why it's there and what it's to be used for. But in order for us to transcend into, superconscious manifestors that have active control over our reality, first we must take radical responsibility. And that includes looking at our victim and understanding, okay, how can I care for this part of me whilst also recognizing that I do have responsibility for what I'm moving into. And when I can own that, that's when I become truly free. Because as long as you're blaming other people for life, then you're never free.
That's the first time I've ever heard victimhood being compared to being an ally. But the way you explained it, it makes sense.
This is something that we teach in our Power Portal membership. It's one of my favorite topics, because once we can, there's a lot of shame that comes with when we see our inner victim. There's a lot of shame that comes with that. But when we start to recognize that it's literally a foundation of our beingness and that there is a role that it's here to play, now we can access all this unconditional love for ourselves around that part of us. And instead of fighting it, we actually become, allies with it. And so then it can work its way into strength. So to give you a bit of a felt sense of what the victim is really about, it's this part of us that doesn't trust ourselves as divinity. So it trusts others and it gives power away to others, but it doesn't trust the self. And so the more we can balance out our victim with self-trust and self-resourcing and evidencing to ourselves that we have the ability to feel how we want to feel moment to moment, that's when your victim starts to become this beautiful, a polar opposite for you to play with. Because when you feel disempowered, then you have the context in which to understand what it feels like to be truly empowered at the highest level. And that's where we're all at collectively right now, is moving from our victim, our collective victim, into our collective sovereign human, where we take full responsibility for the realities and the world that we are creating.
That reminds me of a law of attraction process called clarity through contrast. You use that to gain clarity, and it really is a beautiful process. I've used it many times. So we are talking to the amazing Leanne Rose, kind enough to come visit us from the United Kingdom here today. And I thought, well, this is what you say. Here's the juicy part. I'd love to bring in your friends, the Galayla Collective, who you channel. And is that possible to have your friends come in now?
Absolutely. Let's do it, Carl.
All right. Hang on, folks.
Just a heads up for listeners if you haven't heard us before, they do what's called a verbal handshake on the way in, so it can be a little bit loud, so brace yourself. Hey! Hello, dear soul.
Welcome.
We are honored to be here again, dear one. Such involvement in both worlds. Yes, yours and Gal.
Yes. You're already bringing joy to us here. Thank you.
So, topic we wish to discuss, dear one. If you are happy for us to dive right in.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, do you want me to lead with a question, or did you have something you want to talk about?
We have something in mind, if that is okay.
Well, go for it, friend.
So, an entirely new era is now alive in each and every system. Every human being on the planet now has access to this entirely new realm of existence. How exciting, yes? When we were first chit-chatting, this was starting to build momentum and come online. We are now at the point at which it is spreading. It is here, and now it is amplifying. What does this mean? This means a deeper level of empowerment that the world has ever seen up to this point in human history. What is actually happening at source level? Source, now more aware of itself than it ever has been before. This is not just human beings now in connection with source, and source is leading the process. But instead now, source and human beings side by side, coming into deeper levels of awareness of self, for the illusion of separation from source is dissolving, but is operative enough to keep the third dimensional game going. So what does this look like? What this looks like is that human beings will be moving more towards manifestation that does not give power away to the external world. And thus, freedom, liberation, abundance can be found so much sooner and with so much more emphasis, so much more feeling than ever before. It is such an exciting time to be alive. So, we will leave this here and see what you are inspired to share as a result, dear one.
Well, one of my favorite things about you is that you refer to 3D reality as the hologrammatic playground. What exactly is that?
So, third dimensional reality is illusion, dear ones. We had to burst your bubble. Sorry, not sorry. But it is not real, dear ones. And what we mean by that, our favorite analogy recently, is the idea of a 3D roller coaster. Have you been on one of these, dear one?
Yes.
A simulated experience, yes? Where you are in a box. It moves about a bit. And there is screen. And if you are very lucky, you may even get a spray of water as you are visually going over something water-like. So you get that visceral experience also. Within these beautiful simulations, if it does not feel real, you do not have as much fun, yes?
Yes.
Third dimensional reality is Source's version of a simulated 3D roller coaster. Why do you think we call it 3D virtual reality? Because your entire third dimensional reality is essentially one beautifully complex, intricately designed game for consciousness to play and explore itself. Why? Why would Source create third dimensional reality rife with contrast, rife with drama, pain, war, grief? For when you are all that is, you know that fear is illusion. You know that pain is illusion. You know that the ultimate truth is raw, unconditional love. That is the core truth. And so when you are aware that you are Source, that you are it all, that you have infinite connection to all that you desire, the only real way to play is in mind-bending, third dimensional illusions. Third dimensional reality is a place where yourself as Source fragments. It blasts itself apart into infinite fractals, much like a kaleidoscope. And when you are deeply appreciative of the different rays and colors and patterns of a kaleidoscope, you are beginning to see like Source sees third dimensional reality. Every single unique cell of Source. For this is the best way to understand oneness through the human mind. The one organism is God, Source, one. Pure consciousness, pure energy, the all that is. And each individual, each seemingly separate fractal of Source, each human being, each life, each insect, each animal, each rock, every single other aspect is essentially a cell within the wider organism of Source itself. What you are doing here, so many people ask, what is purpose? What is purpose? What is my purpose? For there is a knowingness in your soul that once you find your purpose, you will find the answers to everything. Your ultimate purpose, dear ones, is to remember that you are Source embodied. That is your only core purpose. And when you awaken to that truth, you become an active participant in the game of remembrance, allowing all other aspects of Source to come home to the truth that they are also Source and hold infinite power within. This is the ultimate game. If it did not feel real, it would not be fun. We know that this sometimes feels very counterintuitive for human beings. But this is the piece we wish to give you. When you are in that simulated roller coaster, and maybe you feel like you are being plummeted from a cliff, and there is adventure and exhilaration for this perceived idea of thrill and danger. But you can have fun knowing that you are in a simulation. It is not real. You cannot actually fall off the cliff. You cannot actually accidentally chop off legs on roller coaster. There is no real danger. You are safe. You are protected. You are experiencing a simulated experience of illusion. That is what third dimensional reality is about. And every single one of you are now gaining greater and greater levels of access to this embodied truth within you. And so you can wake up and play the thrill, the adventurous game of third dimensional life where it feels as if there is a gamble. But in actual fact, you are so infinitely and divinely safe. For it is all illusion. And you are actually the one who is coding the experience from the get-go. And the more you awaken this truth in every cell of your beingness, the more access you get to coding the game itself. Internal reality creates external world. The more that you believe you are the one creator of all things, the single point of consciousness that is creating it all, the more you truly embody that truth, the more joy, bliss, magic you will feel, for you are here fulfilling your purpose of remembering who you are. And the more you remember, the more access you get to the limitless powers of creation to shape the reality you are then existing in. The more ability you get to actually shape the simulation you are choosing to play in moment to moment to moment. The key, the secret, is to remember that you are not just unconditionally loved by the universe. You are the unconditional love of the universe. And the more that you do life from this frequency, and we are not talking about wishy-washy 5D experience of love. This is not what we are talking about. We are talking about the unconditional love that recognizes it is ultimate power. That is what is missing from fifth dimensional frequencies. The unconditional and unlimited power of yourself as God embodied, self-actualized in the human form. Quite magical, yes?
I feel like a sponge just absorbing this beautiful universal wisdom and love. And wow, that was just fantastic. I'm so grateful. Thank you for that, beautiful friends. I do have this question. So if, let's say we have a viewer or listener right now sitting there and they're in pain at home. Maybe they have a cancer or they broke a leg and or they're deeply depressed and it seems so real in that moment. I'm in this body. I can feel my hand. What are you talking about? This is illusion. What is one thought that maybe a person like that can do to just pull himself out of that?
Allow yourself to feel it in the fullest. One aspect that many fifth dimensional frequencies do not actually realize is that pain, whether emotional, mental, physical, spiritual, is our greatest ally. It is the greatest single point of focus we can place our awareness upon in order to transmute itself. If you fully give yourself to the experience of pain at any body level, whether physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, if you allow yourself to feel unconditional love for the pain, which is a process in and of itself, allowing yourself to fully be with it and gaining tools that will help you to do that, such as breath work, many different tools that can help you to really be present with whatever pain you are moving through. When you can trust yourself to be with it, when you can resource yourself to the physical, emotional, mental bodies, spiritual body also, to allow yourself to be with the pain, we promise you, it will show you how it is your ally in your pursuit of evolution of consciousness. The mistake that human beings make is believing that the pain must be removed before they can feel how they want to feel. The pain is actually the pathway. If you allow yourself to feel it in its entirety, it will transmute itself. When you can allow yourself to view the pain as yourself as source, creating it to place focal awareness in your internal realm, it will transmute itself.
But isn't it true that if you allow yourself, let's say you're in pain and you allow yourself to fully experience it, isn't it true that the more you dwell your thoughts and energies, in this case on pain, doesn't the law of attraction, the law of the universe have to send you more pain because you're putting your energy there?
And herein lies the issue. When you are viewing pain through the lens of the illusion of separation, i.e., when you believe that you are a victim to it, you are operating from your victim frequency. And internal reality creates external world, and therefore you must create more experiences in which to become a victim to. But when you can view your pain through the lens of power, through the lens of radical responsibility, through the lens of I am God and in this moment I am choosing to play with the illusion of pain. Now what you are emanating is full sovereignty. Notice the difference, dear one?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And much of that, what I just talked about, much of that fear, it's based in fear. If you, I'm hurt, I hurt, and if you can let go of the fear, but be with that pain and the experience, I understand what you're saying.
Bingo. Think of this as the thrill of the ride of the third dimensional roller coaster. You are feeling your aliveness in that moment. Pain is acute. It forces you into greater levels of awareness and experience at the embodied level. That is what you come here for. That's quite literally why you designed the game, is to feel. But human beings run from feeling. It is the way that you are coded. It actually benefits ourselves as source, for it elongates the game.
I had a guest on a couple months ago who is an expert on consciousness, and he was talking about that we have this concept the different dimensions are miles apart, when in reality he says it's a matter of inches. The different dimensions are more accessible than we realize.
Bingo. Did you know there are infinite dimensions, dear one? And did you know that every single time you make a movement, make a new decision, access a different emotion, think a different thought, you access infinitely different dimensions? Did you know this?
I believe it. I believe it.
The idea that there are only 9 dimensions. Some talk in 12, 26, or what have you. This idea of boxed off dimensions is an vastly oversimplified view of the infiniteness of all that we are as source, for it helps our human beings to put things into boxes and to feel safe. However, it is all illusion. Technically, there is no dimension and one dimension, where there's only the one point of consciousness that also collapses into the allness and the nothingness all at once, if we are going to get super pedantic about it.
Oh, wow. I just love the line that I recently read. Leanne said that the purpose of life being to play with the creation of reality itself. And you've touched on that, and what a joyful understanding.
And do you know, dear one, that in the coming years, this level of awareness is going to come online in a way that it has never done before. This idea that life is a game at some point felt blasphemous. Almost felt as if we were destroying the sanctity of the suffering that is the human existence. But as we say, our self as source is now coming into greater levels of awareness. And now greater levels of the game are unlocking. We are just getting started, dear one, and it is such an exciting time to be focused in human form.
What a line, the sanctity of human suffering. Oy vey.
But think about it, dear one. Think about it, really. We created this idea that we are separate from ourselves. Do you know how much power that takes? Do you know how much creativity to pull nothingness out of allness? It is one of the most divine creations, if not the most divine creation. It is a masterpiece, a work of art. We are infinitely powerful, so much so that we can divide ourselves from ourselves to come back into union with self. Is that not the most beautifully poetic thing you have ever had?
I love it. So we are speaking to our beautiful interdimensional friends, the Galayla Collective, coming through, our beautiful friend Leanne Rose. We're going to probably wind this up in a little bit, but where does the Galayla Collective exist? Is it important to know that? Are you in a non-body form in a different dimension, galaxy, universe?
We love this question. So, it is important for each of you to understand that you and us, we are not separate. We are one. We are all source energy. We operate actually outside the realm of illusion, and so we do not take physical form. Think of it this way. Every single aspect of source is a cell within the living organism of source itself. And so when the girl is remembering more of herself as source, what she is doing is gaining access to the infinite cells of the cosmos, of the one organism that is source itself. That is who we are as the Galayla Collective. The individual perspective of the girl waking up to the truth that she is source, opening up to the infiniteness of all of us that is source, that operate outside of the realm of illusion. Technically, every single one of us operates outside of the realm of illusion, because we are thinking outside of third dimensional boxes. Does this make sense?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. One thing that I remember from the first time you were on this show, I asked, why the name the Galayla Collective? And you said, because you got a kick out of hearing people try to pronounce it.
We will always be cheeky. For humor is our favorite thing as source, dear one. And Galayla, quite often very difficult for people to say.
Oh, you are fun. Well, here we are. The current incarnation of humankind seems to be ready to self-destruct. Seems to be. Is there any particular message you would like to leave our viewers and listeners with right here, right at this point in time?
The worse it gets, dear ones, the deeper the invitation to self-realize and self-resource as God itself. Things must get more difficult to place pressure upon individuals to find the power within. Know that it is all happening for us. Whichever you choose to concentrate on is what your reality will then operate from. Should you choose to operate in the idea that the world is burning, you will live in a reality where the world is burning. Should you choose to live from the level of consciousness and understanding that our self is source, is having one huge adventure and is completely at play with all realms of itself refractalized into infinite, beautiful new creations as bits of us smashed together, then you will live in the reality of joy, adventure, with the knowingness that it is all illusion and you are divinely safe. Remember, the most beautiful and intricate 3D hologram game. That is what you are operating from. And whenever the fear grips you too deeply, remember, this is what it's all about. Allow that fear to catapult you within so that you can resource yourself at the divine level to face life in its fullness and to feel the aliveness of your human as you move through these pieces.
Wow, I don't know about my viewers and listeners, but I am going to grab onto every beautiful, wise, loving thing you said and just wrap my arms around it and incorporate it in my being. And I feel I've been on that journey myself too, and it helps me to even know you and Leanne. And thank you, beautiful friends. I'm so appreciative of you being here, and thanks for making me laugh and smile.
Likewise, dear one. Thank you for being you. We are wanting to send oodles and oodles of love if we are done, dear one. Yes?
Yes, thank you. And well, let's welcome Leanne back. Thank you so much.
Oh. Hello.
She's back. Oh my God. They are so fun. Oh my God.
It's so fun.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And I'm honestly, I'm just blown away by the knowledge and the wisdom they shared. And if humanity can just take a hold of this, boy, we will be in the sixth dimension and beyond, soon.
Absolutely, Carl. And the gorgeous aspect of this is that, one of the huge pieces that they give me is that we're all contributing to this in some way. So even those of us that are concentrated more in third dimensionality, it serves, our wider game as source. So it all really is, divinely working out for us, even when we don't believe it is.
Oh, absolutely. I'm so glad I invited you back on the show. Thank you. As we wind up, Leanne, tell us more about the amazing work you're doing specifically with women and also about your power portal.
Yeah, so we've actually branched out to helping, all souls now. We used to be really, really concentrating on the women aspect of things, but we've really, we've reached out globally. We've expanded just past that. So the core work that we're doing at the moment is really allowing people to dive more deeply into this embodiment of, the word that we're using at the moment is God consciousness. And it's to really recognize that we are infinitely powerful when we can direct our awareness to the parts of us that know that. And so when we can live from that place, everything changes. And that's when we become those radiant beacons of impact in the world. And I know so many of us are so desperate to be of impact in the world. But what we often forget is that we have to move inwards first in order to be that overflowing, joy in the world and radiant kind of beacon of hope. So the most powerful way to work with us at the moment is through our newly launched Power Portal membership. And that's where we are literally giving everything that you need to know, everything you need to know about this entirely new era of manifestation and essentially consciousness. There's a whole new era of consciousness that we're diving into, and everything you need to know is in that portal. There's live aspects, there's beautiful drops throughout the month. It's going to be such an exciting adventure, and we've already got lots of souls in, so it's exciting.
Yeah, and I've been looking at it. It looks fabulous, and people can just go to your website. That's Leanne Rose, GalaylaCollective.com.
So it's leannerosegalayla.com, or you can find me on Instagram. That's where I live as well. And we do have a free offering to give you so we have a 3-day immersion into this entirely new realm of energetics. It's a really, really juicy thing to do. It's free. You can come and sample, and you'll get a sense of this in your own system, because obviously our self as source is moving through every single one of us. So if you want to come and explore that magic, then you can come and download that for free from my website as well.
And I will put those links in the show notes so people can connect with you. And phenomenal, Leanne. You are amazing. Your friends are amazing. And thank you for blessing us for being back on World Awakenings.
Thanks so much for having me, Carl.
This has been another episode of World Awakenings, the fast track to enlightenment with host Carl Gruber, a certified Law of Attraction life coach. We welcome you to tune in to each and every episode of World Awakenings as we open your mind, your heart, and your eyes to the fact that the world's population is now, more than ever, awakening to the truth of all things spiritual, metaphysical, and enlightening, and just how much they play an all-important role in our moment-to-moment daily life. Much love and light to you, my friend, and thank you for tuning into World Awakenings.